All right, let's do a story out of China.
Go.
USA Today did this really great piece about how demographers are looking at the implications of China's one-child rule. And we've talked about this before, but a lot of politicians in China are now starting to get worried that this whole one-child rule is going to negatively affect China in the long run. Okay, so three things I got out of this article. First of all, there will be too few young people to take care of the elderly people in China in about 10 years.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, as they were doing the one-child policy, it worked in limiting the population, so that's the great upside. The downside, other than the obvious that you're limiting people to one child, a lot of abortions, etc., then you're shrinking the base that has to support the senior citizens. Oops, that was kind of a mistake. That's why you don't mess with nature like that. So that could have disastrous consequences as the younger generation gets more and more burdened in China.
Right. China's population will also peak to 1.4 billion in 2026. After that, it will decline.
That's another fascinating thing. And they say by the end of the century, it might decline all the way down to 750 million people. That's, you know, significantly less than what it is right now. So the way the population works is fascinating. And so the Chinese government can hang the mission accomplished banner. It's accomplished a little too well. Right now it's going to run into some other extra problems that Anna is going to tell you about. But you know what? This is the time to end it, man. They're having consideration and discussions on whether they should end it. They should have ended it, I think, a while back. But right now, go, end it. Let them have kids. You're setting up disastrous consequences here.
What's interesting about that is some officials are worried that even if they lift this whole ban, people are still going to only have one child because of the economic situation there.
See, that's where that's why nature's an amazing thing. That's a trend happening all over the world, and now specifically in a lot of the Asian countries, where they realize it no longer makes economic sense to have a lot of kids. Back in the day, it did. First of all, you had a lot of kids who died in the pregnancy or during birth, etc. And then, second of all, you needed kids for the farms, etc. I'm way oversimplifying, but more kids was economically advantageous in the past. Now, as one of the women quoted in the article says, a second kid? How the hell would we have the money to raise a second kid? We barely have enough money for the first kid to get them an education, etc. If we had two or three, they would all get nothing. Okay, so now that's already happened. That's already seeped into the culture in China. That's why, okay, you got to release the hounds, or maybe
release the Kraken.
Okay, and let them have as many kids as they want, because. And it's not that I want China to be bigger, it's that there are consequences. Point number 3.
Okay, so the third consequence I think is the most serious. Okay, the male to female ratio in China.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
This is a big problem. So in 2009, the male to female ratio was 119 males to 100 females. That's a problem because males are having a hard time finding spouses.
Yes, and now that leads to an enormous set of problems. Okay, now they have not, that wave is just beginning. Okay, that wave is going to take another 10, 20, 30 years as it unfolds, right? So, number one, you just don't have enough women to get married to. So that, you know, hurts your overall population. It hurts the males in the country, obviously. Number two, it hurts the women, because then there's going to be high competition for the women, and people are now saying they're worried that the women are going to get sold off. And some of those kinds of. Point number 3 is that some sociologists, and that's not in this article, but I read about it earlier, are worried that too many men in a country leads to war. Okay, and that's a fascinating phenomenon too, where they're frustrated, they don't have partners, they don't know what to do, right? And so that triggers a series of events that's too complicated to explain in this short amount of time, that sometimes in history has led to war when there is this imbalance among males and females where there's too many males. And so obviously they're worried about that. Now, it could go in positive directions too. That means probably a lot of Chinese men will migrate out of China. And you know, the more intermixing within the world is probably a good thing, right? But they're playing with fire.
Absolutely.
And I'm afraid as China becomes so powerful over the next 20 years, and they have this terrible imbalance, what that might lead to. And I don't know how you solve it when you've got 119 males for 100 women.
Right, and it's only going to continue getting worse.
And they're the most populous country in the world with that kind of a gigantic problem. We hope they figure out how to solve that, but solution number one is get rid of the one-child policy. I can't believe they still have it. It's crazy.